What's going on, everyone? Today, 79% of the S&P 500 closed up in the green, and we are seeing some historic things happen in the stock market right now as the U.S. Trade Policy and Uncertainty Index is at historic levels and is now 25% above the Trump trade war 1.0 high, which is just nuts to say. On top of that, gold prices hit record highs of $3,127 per ounce. Newsmax IPO'd today and spiked up by 600% in a day. Hedge funds exposure to tech stocks is at its lowest level since 2020. And Liberation Day is coming up by the day. So we are set for a crazy week, guys. In today's episode, we're going to cover everything you have to know, as well as some great stocks to keep on your radar. Tom, let's not waste any time, and let's get right to it.
Yeah, it was a very crazy trading day this morning. The overall market gapped down a lot and had a lot of selling pressure early on this morning, and I could not believe the SPY was getting so low. And then we had this crazy comeback and recovery where the SPY came up to test key 560 resistance now at the end of the day. This is a pretty crazy move, and we're seeing a lot of crazy volatility right now in the stock market. And of course, with volatility, there's going to be big moves in both directions. You know, if we look at the SPY on the daily chart, look at this overall downtrend here recently. We're actually seeing a lot of crazy green days mixed in to this overall downtrend. I kind of think that that's what we're seeing today ahead of these tariffs coming up, which is causing all this uncertainty that you're talking about. I can't believe that the uncertainty index is past the Trump trade war 1.0. I know a lot of people talk about that because there was a lot of market volatility and downside action during that time as well.
Seriously, and I think a big component of why we are seeing what we are seeing right now is because no one has any idea what's about to happen when Liberation Day happens on Wednesday. You know, Trump mentioned that now these reciprocal tariffs are going to apply to all countries and that there will be no exemptions, and really just no one has any idea on what to expect. You know, the White House hasn't really been too specific with like how high these tariffs will be on other countries and who they will apply to and all of this other stuff, and it just brings in a lot of uncertainty, fear, and just just panic in a lot of senses. So yeah, we are set for a crazy week, and I think regardless of direction, we are going to see some huge moves.
Yeah, we definitely are, and I think that a lot of people are definitely worried right now. You know, going back to those moves during 2018, we definitely saw a lot of downside action with the S&P 500. Like, the SPY was falling off a lot with a lot of that trade war uncertainty, but I will say this, there is a shining light at the end of the tunnel because I really do love the way that it recovered back. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be looking to buy this dip up, and this chart here kind of shows that historically, after we do see like uncertainty spike like this, a year later, we generally see pretty great returns. I mean, some of these returns are actually pretty striking.
Yeah, that's great to see, and the only two exceptions were in 9/11 as well as the Great Recession. So, you know, besides those two like giant events, the market normally does not only turn green a year later, but tends to turn green pretty strongly. So that is great to see. And I think it goes to further reinforce the importance of certainly having a long-term portfolio to take advantage of, you know, broader market dips, but at the same time, being more than willing to adapt to the downside with like your shorter term trades as well. Because as we saw last week, like there's a lot of money to be made on the downside too.
Yeah, 100%. The end of last week was terrible. More specifically, I really thought that like on Friday, that selling pressure was brutal, and it actually carried over into this morning as well initially before we started to come back. And everybody's like, well, hey, Tom, what news came out? What really caused the market to end up roaring back to life? And honestly, I think it's just the volatility right now ahead of this event. You know, we're 2 days out. This event on Wednesday with the tariffs is obviously going to be something that we see a lot of volatility. And I am keeping my eyes on the VIX. I know the VIX dipped down today, but overall, it's been trying to uptrend over the past week as we saw the SPY falling off towards the end of last week there.
Definitely. And whenever you have the VIX rising, that not only is a scary sign for the market because that means that volatility expectations are on the rise. Of course, you can look at tickers like UVXY to, trade this pretty closely, but it also goes hand in hand with just the broader news in the world. And I did see some news related to Iran today, Tom. So what's going on there?
Yeah, this is pretty crazy. Trump reiterated his threat that he's going to bomb Iran if they do not accept his offer for talks outlined in a letter that he sent to their leadership early in March. And I thought that that was a crazy thing to say. Trump's obviously out here saying that he will bomb them and he wants to get a nuclear deal reached with Iran. And obviously he wants these talks to start. That's really the big thing that he wants, to obviously get the talks started and get this deal ultimately done with Iran. But this definitely caused a lot of uncertainty. And this news came out very early this morning. And I think that this is obviously what caused a lot of the downside pressure on SPY very early on. But definitely one other thing to look at is these overall, I would say, worldwide issues going on, right? We still have that Russia-Ukraine situation playing out as well.
Yeah, Trump is like the king of unexpected, bold statements that certainly have market driving potential. And that's going to be especially important over these next few days because, this so-called Liberation Day is coming up. And, depending on how these tariffs end up playing out, they will be extremely important, as we've already seen just by looking at some of this recent price action. So good stuff there. Let's definitely keep a close eye on the news. And it says a lot how gold is just, skyrocketing every single day because, there's just a lot of money flowing into safe haven assets right now when you have just crazy things in the world happening like we covered.
Honestly, the gold chart right now looks like Nvidia or something if you only look at it from the beginning of 2025 and honestly killing Nvidia, based on the overall price action. But man, I will say gold and silver right now are definitely on watch. I know silver has been a little bit more shakier than gold. It generally is, but it's still in a pretty good uptrend overall as well. And if we see these situations start to get a little bit more shaky, we could see like stocks like GDX and even like NEM, like some gold miners start to pop off as well.
Definitely. And we're definitely going to cover more about the gold setup as the video goes on. But finishing up with today's market news in action, check out ticker symbol NMAX. This stock just IPO'd today and they had a 600% move. What is going on here, Tom?
Yeah, it's a newer cable channel that's been taking the, cable channels by storm. NMAX, I really like to see the IPO 620%. There could be a lot of action here, but to see them rising as much as they are is definitely striking. And they are like the fourth most popular cable channel right now, according to Nielsen, behind Fox News, MSNBC, and CNN. So they're kind of like right on the heels of these super, I guess I would call them like mega channels, right? Like Fox or CNN. But at the end of the day, it's a very interesting stock to me. I don't really care about the politics or whatever going on there, right? I care more about, oh my gosh, it's up 600% today.
Exactly. So it is a conservative cable channel, and I think that is one of the main reasons that it is running like it is, given, just the nature of the political environment. When we look at this stock and IPOs in general, they are some of the strongest moving setups you will see, but they are extremely quick to change direction. As we can see in after hours, it touched like $100 a share, and it's already back down to 76. Plays like this one can definitely run significantly, but I cannot emphasize enough that you have to be willing to, protect yourself as these trends change. Keep NMAX close on the radar, not only for tomorrow, but also throughout the rest of this week, because IPOs do have that like sticky potential where they can like stay in the headlines and, sustain, the level of momentum that they build for multiple days to even weeks in certain situations.
Yeah, and speaking of things that have been running a lot recently and things that have certain situations going on, Celsius's stock has been on fire. I know that this stock has been in the headlines quite a bit recently. You know, on the daily chart, it's been down around a lot of key supports. It's been starting to rip back to the upside. And as of today, there was some news that came out that really helped it break above a very key resistance, albeit though it could not hold above this. But they actually had a good upgrade here today. So Truist upgraded them, and their analysts gave a pretty good, I would say, rundown on the overall situation with Celsius here. One thing that's really helping them in the short term is they're planning to buy Alani, which is a pretty popular competitor to Celsius, and Celsius's sales have been dipping. They're down 6% over the past few months, according to this, and of course, Alani has been causing a lot of that. So, you know, obviously, if they buy them and they help get some of that competition off the market, and then obviously they'll have Alani too. You know, that sounds pretty good for Celsius, but they upgraded them and they raised their target by $10 to $45, and it really caused a nice pop out of Celsius today. So I thought that this was awesome, and they also talked a lot about how in the women's side of the market, Celsius and Alani are super popular.
Yeah, so basically Celsius is a company that has been crushing it over recent years, but over 2024, the stock definitely struggled. For those of you who watch our channel often and who have been watching for some time, you know Celsius is a stock that we've covered a handful of times in a broader sense for this dip buy. Looking at Celsius right now, it has been uptrending in a great way over the past month or so. This news definitely helped boost that already existing bullish momentum, and it also really helps to spur some broader bullish sentiment when the stock is currently at, let's say, $35 a share, and you have an analyst suggesting a price target up to $45 a share. As we know, Celsius is definitely a pretty popular company, and their stock is moving with some good momentum, so I certainly still think it's worth keeping on the radar, especially for a day-to-day and scalp opportunities.
Yeah, with the scalping opportunities in the short term, I really do love this overhead resistance that it's sitting at right around $36, and I loved how it was able to really rip above there today. But for tomorrow, it would be amazing to see a break of the high of day from today. It didn't really break 36 by a ton. It ran up to around 36.75. So if we see that break, that's where I think we'll really get the opportunities. I'm even going to set my alert now because I don't want to miss this one.
There we go. And then while Celsius has certainly been crushing it, it's safe to say that not all stocks have been treated equally in this market, as we can see that according to some recent hedge fund data, we have the gross exposure of hedge funds related to tech stocks is at its lowest level since 2020, which is crazy to say. And again, it goes hand in hand with the rise in uncertainty that, like we mentioned earlier in the video, when you have tech stocks, though, getting a lot of the selling, it makes it a whole lot harder for the market itself to rise, because when we go to the heat map, we can see that the big tech stocks, the stocks that have the biggest boxes like Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Tesla, Apple, and so on, are the stocks that have the biggest, heaviest weighting on the entire market. So when these stocks are struggling, it basically impacts everything else.
Yeah, and I just changed this to the year to date, and you can see year to date, a lot of these tech stocks are down in the red by a significant amount, like Nvidia 20%, Apple 10%, Microsoft 11%, Google 18%. These are some striking numbers, but look at the rest of the market, right? The rest of the market's actually pretty decent, even like oil, healthcare, like Eli Lilly, Coca-Cola, like non-durables and stuff like that. So very interesting to see like the overall difference there, and it's definitely a striking sign to see the hedge funds and their tech exposure like this dropping in a very significant way. So I think that just adds to a lot of the selling pressure coming up here, Mike. But there's definitely a lot that we covered here in the video. With the economic schedule for the week, we do have some data tomorrow. ISM manufacturing PMI and JOLTS job openings will be coming out at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So have that on the radar. And then as far as earnings, it's a pretty slow week there.
Beautiful. All right, Tom, well, looking at some more specific levels for SPY for tomorrow, what is on your radar and what should we look at on the charts?
Yeah, right now SPY is sitting right around 560, which is a pretty key resistance. We can see 560 has been a fairly decent level on SPY. Now we do have to go back quite a long ways here to find a lot of these key supports, but SPY had been bouncing around 550 recently. This morning it actually got under 550, which was a pretty striking sign, but it immediately recovered right back up whenever the market opened and had that V-shaped recovery early on. So I'm really watching that overall low around that 550 mark still as support. But there were a lot of levels that are coming up today that it closed around. Like 558 to 560 is a major range. I'm definitely going to be watching that for tomorrow. If the SPY can rip above the high of day at 560, I will become a bit more bullish and even look up towards like 564 to 565, where I see there being a lot of resistance overhead. So that's what I'm watching for the SPY. Those are the levels, and I really expect a lot of up and down price action into this tariff event.
Yeah, and like another thing to keep in mind too is like we have all of these major support and levels, support and resistance levels listed, and there's certainly a lot of opportunity, riding the moves in between these major levels, especially if there is news or just general momentum to go along with that trend. So like, for example, if SPY is at 558 right now, and let's say the news stays, fine, and momentum continues to hold up, and our next major resistance is at like that 565 area, again, there's certainly opportunity riding that short-term trend, while acknowledging that if any Trump news comes out at any second, the direction can change, and that's totally fine. You just have to adapt to that. But I do see a lot of, importance with referencing some of these major levels in the short term, because, 565 is certainly a key area. There's been multiple touch points at this area, not only last week, but over the past few weeks. And then as we zoom out, we could see even more important levels like you mentioned.
Yeah, 100%. And, the SPY has been chopping around a lot down here. So there's been a lot of supports and resistances that are more minor as well that get made and broken intraday. And that's something that you can also take advantage of. Like we see the SPY right here. There was a lot of chop right around this 554, 555 area. And you can kind of identify those breakouts later in the day and trade those as well. Obviously, those are a lot quicker scalps. And sometimes the supports and resistances form intraday there, kind of like what I'm showing.
There we go. All right, Tom, well, let's get right into some setups and predictions then. A stock that is close on watch is GDX, and it is to the upside. For those of you who don't know, GDX is an ETF that follows gold mining companies. With gold prices at record highs and increasing by the day, it certainly helps gold mining companies. Gold actually hit its 51st daily all-time high over the past 12 months today, which was awesome to see. Looking at GDX right now, it's uptrending strongly, and the more bullish momentum that continues with the gold market in general, the more it will help GDX. It's definitely on my bullish radar. The more pressure puts on its highs, the stronger and better the setup becomes.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild gold stock, and I've seen GDX, go on some pretty crazy trends on the daily chart. It's definitely in one right now as well. I'll definitely keep it on the radar for sure. With my first setup, I'm looking at a bit of a weird stock, and that is going to be McDonald's here. McDonald's is running up pretty well in the short term. If we go back to the heat map and we see a lot of these moves from this year, of course, we can tell that like McDonald's and a lot of these more value or like consumer services stocks are doing like a little bit better, like Coca-Cola, Philip Morris, things like that, right? And we're seeing McDonald's perform really well here in the short term. It's starting to come back off of a recent dip, and we're starting to see a very nice move, 1.72%. So if I see the high of day break tomorrow around 313.50, I'm going to keep watching it up. You don't necessarily have to try and catch like 200% moves on McDonald's options. 30 to 40% goes a long way here.
Definitely. Yeah, value stocks have certainly been holding up a lot better than tech-related names, so good stuff there. Another stock that is close on watch is Ford, and it is to the upside. Ford actually had some great momentum today, and we are seeing a handful of momentum-driven buying activity go into this one ahead of this major Liberation Day on Wednesday with this barrage of tariffs. So looking at Ford, the momentum's great. The news can help them depending on the specifics of the tariffs that are announced. Again, there's not really too much specifically that was released by the White House just yet, but it does say a lot how Ford is getting a strong bid like this. So it's definitely on my radar. It would be great if we could see a break above that like $10.20 area with momentum to truly get this like uptrend extending into like more of like a multi-week breakout, but we will see.
Yeah, I definitely like 1020 as well, and I'll keep it on the radar for tomorrow. I thought it was kind of funny today how Ford was moving up over 3%. I'm sure a lot of people have been looking at it to the downside recently, right? That is a pretty weird situation with the tariffs, and it was pretty striking to see him move up today. I thought very surprising, so I will definitely watch it as well. With my next setup, I'm looking at Tesla to the upside potentially, but I am respecting both directions with all this crazy tariff news. Tesla had a pretty good close today, right at key resistance of 260. It couldn't really break it, but this gives us a really good level to watch for tomorrow. We can see that today on the Bookmap, there was a huge stack of sellers at 260, and that ended up getting wiped out. If we drag the Bookmap over, we can actually see that that stack was like 44,000 shares there in the middle of the day, and it ended up wiping it out. So if we do see a run above 260 tomorrow, I will be watching Tesla to the upside, and I will also be looking at 265, where I do also see another good stack of sellers.
All right, sounds good there. And besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have CLF to the downside.
Cleveland Cliffs got destroyed today. If it breaks under $7.90, keep watching it down. It tried to hold that $8 support.
All right, with the next one, we have SEDG to the upside.
Solar Edge, pretty nice recovery today, especially at the end of the day. If they break out above $16.35, watch them to the upside.
And then with the last one, we have ASTS to the downside.
ASTS has been one of the wildest stocks in the short term. Always has a lot of crazy moves. If it falls under 22.22 tomorrow, keep watching it down.
Sounds good. So we have these three stocks on the radar for potential continuations tomorrow, if and only if they break through the levels listed. These stocks are volatile, so you better have stop losses to protect yourself. In general, especially when you are trading momentum-driven intraday directional setups like these ones, it is extremely important to have smart, sustainable, long-term oriented trading habits. The first and most important thing is risk management. The best way to do that, the easiest way, is by using stop losses and having a clear idea on what you expect the trade to do, having a thesis for the trade. It's also very important to, size reasonably, follow the money, among many other things. You can learn a lot more about these and much more for free in the Key Lessons channel in the StockedUp Discord. The link for that is in the description down below. But besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's $345,000 big money trade. And we are looking at ticker symbol MGM. Today, the big money bought the 27 strike call options that expire on May 2nd of 2025. This is a $345,000 trade, and looking at this setup, these call options are already in the money, and the expiration's pretty soon, so the trader here is expecting a move pretty soon. Looking at this setup, MGM has been selling off pretty badly over the past few months, and it did recover decently well intraday. This setup is certainly an interesting one, mainly due to the fact how deep in the money these options are. So the trader, again, is expecting a move pretty soon here, and there's really no reason for the trader to be selling these options as well. So either way, keep MGM close on watch, and I'm excited to see how this one does.
Yeah, this guy's playing blackjack or something here with with this trade. That's kind of funny, but I did actually see a really good support coming up on the MGM weekly chart. If we look at MGM in 2022, MGM dipped down in a pretty crazy way, and it's actually getting to some pretty big levels that it was at during that time. More specifically, $30, where it kind of tried to bounce here in the short term, is definitely going to be on watch. And then even the low, all the way down there around like 26, is definitely going to be on watch as as well. But I think this is a very interesting setup. There's a little bit of time to it, but not really too much. And like you said, it's very deep in the money. So I would definitely think that that they were longing it, of course. And I am thinking, like with MGM here, I thought it was worrying how it broke below 30 in the short term, but it did end up coming back pretty well here. And that end of day recovery was pretty nice today. And that overall wick bounce was fairly decent.
No doubt. So good stuff there, and keep this one close on watch. But we also want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Nigel21, who had their biggest trade yet. He said, a big fan of this company, hoping to buy again once the price drops after today's rally. And he posted over $14,000 in gains. So huge shout out to you, Nigel. Keep on rolling, and it is awesome to see screenshots like this one. If you're into short-term trading, definitely check out that first link in the description and the comments down below to get full access to the Stocked Up trading floor. This will give you full access to our army of trading robots. We can see today Surge had some decent calls with Pepsi and Coca-Cola, but nothing too crazy. Last week on Thursday was definitely the star of the show, as we had some GME put options rise by over 1,300% in a day, which was actually its best trade ever. So that was awesome. You also get full access to our daily big money trades. You could chat with Tom and myself all day long and access our weekly live events, among many other features, benefits, and channels. If you're interested, check out that first link in the description in the comments down below. And also, if you are new to the channel, consider obliterating that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. Every single day we do hours worth of research to show you charts that you'd never otherwise see. We showcase the most important news, information, big money trades, events, and everything you have to know about the market in around 20 to 25 minutes or less. If there's a lot to cover, we certainly will go over extra to make sure you're fully informed. But again, if you want our videos recommended to you more often, definitely obliterate that subscribe button. And besides that, we hope you are ready for a crazy week in the stock market. And thank you all so much for watching. Let's crush it tomorrow.